Yeah, it's pretty glad that I don't have to work in my home because like it's just a total mess, but behind on the other side of the wall from my home office.
Oh, well, I mean, you can see the kitchen sink right behind me, so
Yeah,
anytime.
but it's nice and clean. Yeah,
We're very tidy. No children. That's the secret to our success.
I strongly advise that you don't add one of those if you want like sleep and a clean house.
Yeah, Sarah is a really good friend, and her daughter is like one of my favorite people. But the second Adele came into the picture, Sarah's clean house, just expectations immediately lowered.
Yeah, I mean, it's like I used to try and keep a house relatively. I don't like clutter, and with babies, there's so much crap, I mean, there's just so much stuff. And like, oh my God, there was just so much clutter in our house. Like, it would drive me insane. But you have to have all that baby stuff, so you just have to get over it.
Well, and even the stuff that's not baby stuff. I mean, one of Adele's favorite things was to pull open the drawer with all the cooking utensils and just pull absolutely everything out, piece by piece, and bang, bang, bang. And so, putting away the kitchen was as big a job as putting away the living room.
Yeah.
She's about to turn 10, so that she doesn't have those same tendencies anymore. Now it's just video crap, right? She tries to teach me how to play her video games, and I'm just like, oh, dude, I don't know.
Oh yeah, no. I really hope Max doesn't like to do video games because I hate them. I mean, I just hate them. I wasn't a video game kid, and I just don't even like it. And I don't want to have to learn how to play video games.
Well,
maybe not.
You're about 10 years younger than me. You're early 40s?
Yeah, I'm 40. What is this, 2016? 20, I'm 45. I forget all the time. I'm 45.
Well, and you grew up in the South, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, television back in my day, we had 2 channels.
Yeah.
So if you didn't play a video game, you're just sort of shit out of luck.
Yeah. Yeah. We had, I was your typical latchkey kid after my parents' divorce. So my brothers and I would be home and they played Mario Brothers all the time, just all the time. But growing up, we had Saturday cartoons, and that was it. That was the TV we watched when we were little. So we were allowed to watch TV on Saturdays so my parents could sleep. We got one.
All right.
Hi, Mimi. You can take yourself off mute if you want to say hello.
We can unmute her as well, if that's okay.
Yeah. Oh, my music went away. Where did it go?
Unmute.
Hi, Mimi. I just wanted to say hi while you weren't muted.
Hello. Good to be with you today.
Are you on a telephone hookup or are you on a computer?
I'm on my laptop.
Awesome.
What do you use? It's the Colluminate. It's the co-op in Dayton Consulting Company, Operations and Finance Harmony. Yes.
Nice.
Imhotep Adisa says hello. He's the executive director over here at the Kepper Institute. We're in Indianapolis.
Cool.
Yes, indeed. And are you both in Dayton?
Neither one of us are in Dayton.
Okay, maybe I had it all wrong. Please help me out here. Where am I? Who are you?
Colluminate's a consulting cooperative, and so we're consultants that belong to the co-op that is Colluminate. I focus on operations. Audrey focuses on finance. She's a CPA, and I'm a retail food operator. And so I work primarily out of Madison, Wisconsin, and Los Angeles, California. And Audrey works from just outside of Atlanta, Georgia.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
Who else did you say was in the room with you, Mimi?
so we have Imhotep Adisa. He's the executive director here at the Kepra Institute. Aguila Nadraj.
Can they see us?
I don't think they can see us, but they can hear us.
Okay.
If you want to say hello.
Yeah, your video's not on. If you want to turn your video on, then we'll be able to see everybody.
Sure. You want to be on video, Aguila?
I'm always on video now.
I know.
I'm
It's
frazzled is
wild.
what I look.
Yeah.
Believe us, we feel you.
Right. I know everybody does. Everybody does. Yeah, I'm just like in a t-shirt eating chips.
I'm in a sweatshirt eating chips.
That was me 10 minutes ago. No.
Yeah. I mean, if you want to eat chips and wear a t-shirt, that's fine with me.
It looks like it's because you're logged in as a participant in a webinar.
Oh, maybe it won't let them turn on.
No, because yeah, it looks like it's like y'all are in webinar format and y'all are the speakers and she's the participant.
No. Well,
Oh.
I am okay with you not seeing me right now.
You look beautiful.
Thanks, Aguila. But that was Aguila. She does our grants management and some climate, environmental justice work. And then Rasul is here. He's kind of also over here eating chips and maybe doing homework. But he manages our IT work and some data things, and is a media student at the university here in Indianapolis. But Kepra Institute it's a grassroots community empowerment organization, formally founded in 2003-04. And so we do youth development, we run different social enterprises. We have programming in several areas, from food to, entrepreneurship, and a lot of things in between. But everything we do is really about developing community leadership, agency, how to build and sustain community institutions, and try to make the world a better place. And so I coordinate some of our food work. We have it's kind of like a co-op. And then when I saw the title of this, I was like, it's perfect. One, we have a consulting company also called Scarabus Consulting that, we do some trainings to share what we know, and it also helps us to fund our organization and our work. Mm-hmm. So, and we're really interested in co-ops, but we are not a co-op. We're an LLC right now. So seeing a consulting co-op was really interesting to us. And then the title, Achieving Harmony Between Finance and Operations, I was like, wow, because yeah, that's a whole thing. And we've had a lot of growth. I'm involved in some of our accounting work as well as some of our operational work. And I just would love to be enlightened about how others find harmony between those worlds.
Well, awesome. I'm thinking we're a few minutes beyond the start time, and we're 10 minutes beyond the start time.
Yeah.
So I think that we'll get going. So I was going to teach you a little bit about how Zoom works, but essentially we showed you
they just told us why it doesn't work. So there.
So since you're the only participants here currently, we're just going to leave you unmuted, and you don't have to learn that much about Zoom at all.
Great. Wow. Well, I will try to honor this offer. Yeah. Unmuted.
And two, I think this will be helpful. I mean, if you stay the only participant, when we envisioned this seminar or webinar, we envisioned it in the context of the retail food grocery co-ops that we primarily work with. And so I know you said that y'all are developing co-ops and do some consulting with them. And so if it's, if we are too far into the weeds on food co-op specific stuff, then, maybe we can turn it to something that's more beneficial to you. So, while we're discussing this, I like the fact that you're not muted, right?
Yes. Fabulous.
You hear all our crunching noises. It's like a real life mukbang.
But I mean, I'd love to just hear what you all have put together based on your expertise. And if I have any other questions, I'll just feel free to dig in, I guess.
Yeah, just speak up.
Well, thank you.
All right.
Well, I know, Audrey, it's your turn to go, but I just want to kind of give the Zephyr group, the Kefir group, a little background. Maybe you kind of seem to know that there's an inherent tension between finance and operations, and that basically the doers want the finance team to just go and count the beans and sort of leave them alone frequently. And that's really not the healthiest approach to supporting your business. And so what Audrey and I have discovered is that we have a blast working together to meet the goals of the organizations that we work for. And we just wanted to illuminate how we can take some of the stress out of that tension and really help people understand that it's an opportunity to collaborate and be, your best selves in your respective roles for the success of your organization. And with that, Audrey.
Yeah, so we were, like she said, we were talking about that basic goal of taking that stress out of that kind of inherent tension out, or making it a little bit easier in just your regular everyday world. And then we delayed this webinar partly because in the face of everything that's going on with COVID right now, there's a lot of extra stress at the workplace, particularly in our grocery store co-ops, which are kind of on the front lines of this. So there's a lot of changes to their operation. There's a lot of tension and stress on the frontline workers. And so you definitely don't want to add to that add to that kind of stress, and you're all really working together for the same thing. And so now with what's going on, this is an even more important discussion to be had. So one of the things we want to talk about is adapting old systems to this current crisis that our co-ops are in. And just like the operations are providing new services, so curbside pickup and online ordering, the finance department might also be needing to provide new services to the users, to who they provide to, which is the department. So, and then we've all talked about living wages for a long time, but living wages have a new meaning when your frontline workers, who are sometimes the lowest paid in the store, are the ones facing increasing amounts of risk, and there's labor shortages as people are ill or staying out to care for other people. A lot of our co-ops are facing pressures on their cash balance, and that's because of inconsistent sales. So, things are just brand new in the grocery store world right now. Surges in PTO usage, which when you're a small store can really place a stress on the cash when people have 240 accrued hours of PTO and decide to take that all at one time. Then that can place a lot of stress in a small environment. And then there's new PTO requirements. There's new paid PTO requirements under the Families First Corona Relief Act. And some of our stores are facing what's called a managed customer count, where they're limiting the amount of people in the store. So that obviously limits the number of sales and is a whole new way of operating that we haven't seen before. And we have new safety issues going on, obviously, with the corona issues. So I'm going to talk about how finance can support in the face of a lot of these challenges, and then Winston's going to talk about how the various departments can support. And so one of the ways that finance can support in the face of a lot of challenges is helping to prioritize where that cash goes. So in a grocery store, your two highest priorities are generally your labor and your cost of goods sold. You got to pay your people, and you got to pay for inventory to sell. And if you can't do that effectively, then your store's operations are obviously not going to work well, stay open. And so one of the ways that finance can support the various departments, is to help them revise their purchasing budgets. So the lower priority areas, what we've seen is that your bulk departments are having to close because of the because of the health issues, and or like the hot bars, those will be closed completely. And so revising the allocation of that money to higher priority departments. So people want milk, they want toilet paper, they want, dry goods and these things while they're at home. And so they're doing less of the pickup and none of the bulk, because that's not an option right now. So revising that purchasing department budget so that the departments with higher priorities have bigger numbers to buy with. That's one way that finance can quickly support this different level of operations. Cash projections, either by week or by day, might be necessary right now because your operations have so significantly changed that that your cash needs and your expectations of where cash is going to be. Do you have enough to meet payroll? Do you have enough to buy the things that you need? Those are going to be that. A cash projection tool will help you predict that, and we'll look at that a little bit more. But also, when I said that labor and cost of goods sold are your two highest priorities, what that inevitably means is that other vendors become less of a priority. And so the negotiations to work with those vendors can sometimes be taken on with a finance department to alleviate the labor burden on the departments. So if you haven't looked at a cash projection tool, then a lot of the co-ops are beginning to use this going forward in this time. And it's not a new tool. It's not anything super revolutionary or exciting, but it's really, really helpful and not something that every group does. But it's definitely something that's useful in this current situation. So it's a multi-week tool. It can go out 3 weeks or 6 weeks or 9 weeks or 12 weeks. I have a co-op that's looking at doing one for 6 months to kind of see when the operations of how their cash balance is going to be affected. But it actually predicts your cash balance in the future based on what sales have come in and what you need to pay out. So if you're looking at prioritizing payments, you can put those payments in and take them out of your cash projections and see how that affects your cash balance so that you can do things like make your payroll or make the automatic payments for your inventory that are coming out. And so this is a really helpful tool. The highest priorities being labor and inventory, and then everything else after that being considered negotiable. And I've seen a lot of co-ops that have really good relationships with their landlords. And when they're in times like this, they can go to the landlords and say, hey, look, I know nobody really thinks of rent as being a negotiable thing, but we need to have a hard discussion about that. And that cash projection tool will really help you figure out how much money you're going to have to be able to make like rent next month or something like that. So, and once you get it, you want to get it started and you want to use it as a tool. So it's not something that you're locked into. It's not something set in stone. It is a projection and it is based on estimates, but it's not something to, it's not going to be the hill to die on or whatever. It's just a tool that you're using to make plans in a really, really changing environment that can be really helpful to create new expectations and to help people, to help communicate purchasing priorities and budgets to your various teams and departments. And it shouldn't take that long. So if it's taking more than 30 minutes to update every day, then like your tool needs to be tweaked because you can't just spend all your time doing this.
Yes. Do you have any specific tools that you recommend for cash projections?
I have a really basic one I could send to y'all afterwards. And then there's bigger and more like elaborate ones. So, that are kind of depending on where your organization is in operations. But I developed a really small one for a small nonprofit a while back that was just based on funding expectations and things like that. And so I'm happy to share with you the one that I have, but what you want to do is make sure that that the starting point is what's in your bank, right? And that at some point during the process, you are reconciling it back to what your bank balance is to make sure that nothing's missing and it's all tied in. But I'd be happy to share what I have.
Yeah. Awesome. I'd love to see it. Thanks.
Yeah.
So how operations can support finance. Finance has a very, 30,000 foot view, and in this environment or any sort of crisis environment, that view has to come into the more immediate, the more current. And operations is a day-to-day, hour-to-hour resource to the finance team for what's happening on the floor, what are the estimates of labor, where could labor be best used, where is it absolutely critical, where do we see that labor is not being activated. So we talked about, you know, deli teams right now in a grocery environment. Food service is not safe food. Public health departments have called for the serve yourself, salad bars, hot bars, all of that food service to be shut down. So the food service teams are, their volume has gone down of sales. And so once they produce a small amount of goods and pack those things up for grab and go sales, they're available to support fronting the store, which means pulling the products towards the front so that customers can see them more easily. They're available to help customers in the aisle because many services are seeing new customers because customers are just simply going where the goods are. If your normal grocery store doesn't have something, or your normal grocery store is busier than you feel comfortable with, the stores that are limiting customer count and have good systems in place for maintaining social distancing and so forth become more popular, and the word gets out, and then you have new users. So you want to be able to steward those new users in a way that they're not just zinging back and forth across your grocery service and creating more contact hazard opportunities for the other customers. Your operators can also be a huge ambassador for the financial needs of the store to the staff. And once that staff are understanding why we need to make certain purchases, not make certain purchases, allocate certain hours, and then not allocate certain hours. If the operators are really good at communicating that that's for the health of the business and for the best long-term wellness of the whole operation, then the staff will be more comfortable. They'll understand their role, and your customer will be more comfortable as well. So you'll end up providing a better service. And just really, your operators are with your customers usually. They're with your vendors, and so they have a lot of insight that should help inform finance's ability to do their work with the most precision.
So really the goal here is to support each other while you're still keeping your system strong. And I think I spelled the systems. Okay. So, you know, we're looking at when you have a smaller operational team, then you could ask the finance department if they could help with coding, if they could follow up on credits, because that can be, 5, okay. So we can follow, so there's different ways that you can change the operations, but one of the things that we wanted to talk about with this slide is that when you're changing the way that things are done, so your procedures and processes, then there's opportunities for new risks to come into there. So procedures and processes in ideal environments are set up in a way that segregates duties and minimizes risks to the co-op. And in times like this, you know, changes can be made because this department doesn't have the personnel to do it, or, you know, your manager is out or whatever. And so people will pick up the slack and do different things. And so if those changes are being made, then we want the appropriate conversations to be had at the right level, because when you make those changes, you could be, you know, creating new opportunities for things like misappropriation or of assets or fraud, and there's that level of risk that's being introduced into the system. And so we want that decision made at the appropriate level of leadership. And so sometimes that's not being made, that appropriate level is not by the people who are proposing the changes, but it needs to be presented to the higher level of senior leadership. And so they are aware of what's going on, and they're aware of a new level of risk. And so from an accountant's point of view, if you can't prevent a risk from happening, so you can't prevent something, then you want to add a level of review that would detect an error or or fraud. You would detect, that would be detected later. And so sometimes additional levels of review are a perfectly good way to mitigate risk in a system when you have to change procedures because of some new challenge that's come across. So Winston, pointed it out really well, that last bullet point, that planning and communication around these changes is the difference between having really great leadership with clear roles and having a lot of confusion that creates more stress later on, at that time and then later on. This is not an opportunity to do somebody else's job, but rather it's an opportunity to have be proactive in planning and communicating what you think as an operator on the ground or as a person in the finance department, some changes that need to be made because of some obstacles or some challenges you're facing. So we anticipate some road bumps for 2020 reporting. So the co-ops, generally speaking, do a physical inventory count at March 31st, and we're highly doubtful that that was done because for, counting inventory may not be considered an essential service in a lot of areas. There's going to be some problems then if you don't count your inventory in a timely manner on forecasting your margin, and the margin is the key profitability driver for the grocery stores. And so we're going to see a lot of budget revisions for the calendar year co-ops. And then for those that ended on a fiscal year, so that end at June 30th, they don't have as much time left in their budget. So to get back on track for their budget projections and things like that. So we have concerns that for some of the groups that are having really big challenges, that their loan covenants may be triggered. And loan covenants are clauses written into your loans that say that you have to have like a certain debt service coverage ratio, and you have to have a certain amount of, cash balances, things like that. And they're usually a surprise to the co-ops when they're triggered, and the bank says, hey, you're now not in compliance with your loan agreement, and that can cause some problems. A lot of the food co-ops have loans from their members that they're working with, and so those also can be negotiated and modified, but a good member loan communications process is key during these difficult times if that's what the co-op is facing. So we are at the end of our time period, Mimi.
Flew by. That was really good stuff.
Is there anything you'd like to talk about or that y'all are facing that we could, you want to chat about?
I mean, you covered a lot of it. I think with having to reprioritize, reassess where your best focus areas are, and then how to align the budgets with that. I think one thing I'd just be curious to learn more about in general is the way that you are engaged with this consulting company as a co-op. If you could speak any more to that model and what you feel the benefits are, or any restrictions that you feel the Colluminate group faces with being a cooperative model, a cooperative approach to a consulting company.
I love it. Winston's been with it longer than me, so I'm a newbie. Winston, you want to talk about it, working with Colluminate a while?
Yeah, several of the advantages are that the co-op we buy into it, we pay our equity, and there's a financial agreement between each consultant and the co-op that the co-op will create marketing materials for us, will do some branding work for us, will do all of our billing. We submit our billing, but then it gets centralized and run through a CPA firm that the co-op has hired. We have a manager that oversees that all of our contracts are legal and enforceable and competitive in the market. There's a lot of support from a business standpoint that each individual doesn't have to provide a full range of those services as an independent consultant. And then as far as being more competitive in the marketplace, I get a world of support from my colleagues at Colluminate if I have a question about HR policy or interpretation or how things are moving along. Like for instance is many co-ops had sexual harassment policies up until probably 10 years ago. And now it's more of a healthy workplace environment policy. And it's like, how do you cover all of these different things with other kind of arbitration or safety in the workplace types of programs rather than what's now kind of an outdated concept of sexual harassment. And I can go to so many other consultants. I think we have an array of 40 or more consultants that have specialties that I don't have. I'm also frequently consulted of, you know, if there's a co-op that's struggling with financial performance or I don't know, some sort of, you know, growth problem, I'll happily weigh in and say, hey, here's what I've seen done in the marketplace. This is something you can focus on. I'm happy to review your pricing strategy. I'm happy to review your business plan, so forth and so on. So there's a lot of intercollegial support amongst consultants, and we don't bill each other unless we have a, you know, a fairly chunky bit of work that we need. And then, you know, then you've created some work for your colleague, and that's good too.
Yes.
I found it really helpful as a new, so I went from being an auditor. I'd always worked for a CPA firm. I've always had a, you know, salary and benefits and an HR department and a marketing department and all of these things. And so being out on my own is, you know, was a big change for me. And so it was really great to have, first of all, to have people that I can, you know, check in with, like if I have to ask a question or something like that, you know, because I'm a finance person and I can make recommendations, but I'm not going to be the best person to go to on, you know, on some of the operational stuff. And so, but I have a great system and a great network of you know, co-op contacts. And so, you know, sometimes I get challenges, I get questions that I really don't know what the best answer is. And so it's great being able to rely back on the whole level of expertise, or be able, or even just be able to introduce somebody that sends a question my way. And it's like, that is not my ball game, but I do know someone who knows just exactly how to do that. And so that's been really nice. And then also having, like she said, the marketing materials and things like that. And we refer a lot of work back and forth. I think it's been really, really great. I mean, if I know somebody who needs help and I can't help them, I have a network of 40 other people that I can throw a question out to and say like, hey, you know, I need somebody who does a good job in store design, because we have you know, I'm working with somebody in this other nonprofit I'm part of, and they are thinking about building a store, and they're trying to get names for store design. Like, who does that? And they, you know, I got 40 people who'll give me their opinion on the groups they've seen for store design and who not to work with, you know, I mean, so that's really nice. I like that. I think we do, there's been like, we have a couple of consultants who focus on anti-bias training, and that was a big surprise to me. I didn't know that you could go I mean, it was just an introduction to that for me, and that's been an amazing training that's been transformational, that I didn't expect to have, but it's just one of the things that our consultants are really good at, and they're on our team, and they do the training for us too as well. So that was phenomenal. But I've loved being able to be independent in managing my own business and yet still have colleagues, right? It's like you get the advantages and not the crazy office politics that sometimes comes with actually working with people. Like, they're all exceptionally good at getting along with other people, because that's what they do. Like, a lot of them are in governance, and they're in communication and stuff like that. And working with people who, you know, I mean, I used to work with accountants, so, you know, you get some of the attitudes that come with a stereotypical accountant. And so, and that's just been my career for all of 20 plus years. So, you know, so working with this really great group of people who genuinely want to make their community stronger and genuinely want to make this world a better place, but still acknowledge that we all do have different roles in it and are very generous with their time, has been phenomenal, you know. And it's great that we don't have to all, like, one of the things that I think is helpful that's coming up is, like, with all of this new legislation that's come out, our administrator contacted our CPA firm, and he's been in conversations with me. And so we're putting together a presentation for our consultants to know what about this legislation could be beneficial to them. And so I think that's kind of value added stuff that is great for a co-op that, you know, takes care of their consultants and their members that, you know, you wouldn't necessarily get otherwise.
Very cool. So it sounds like a lot of the benefits is having a centralized place to get a lot of support, a whole like network of expertise, but you all have enough autonomy that everyone can also focus on their skill sets and, manage their projects in the way that best suits them as where they are.
It's a very non-competitive atmosphere within our co-op. And I think that is key, right? Like I've had other co-op clients where people were not willing to share information and things like that. But this one is not like that. And that was businesses. So that was a co-op of businesses, whereas this is definitely a co-op of people sharing services, and we're all in this together. And if you ever got to a point where you were like, I don't like doing this, then you could just leave, right? Like there's no need to have an attitude. If it's not worth it to you, then you would leave. But I think the size and the growth of our co-op shows, and I don't know that we haven't had that many people leave, I don't think, shows how great a set of services are being offered and what a great support it is. And we all love, I think, what we do. I mean, that's the thing. You get us on the phone and we can talk about co-ops forever.
Yeah. That's what matters most. I feel you. Well, I don't want to take, I know we're a little over time, so I just want to say thank you for doing this, or letting me actually have a whole conversation with you over here. I got a lot out of it, so I appreciate it.
Great. And I'll send you that format. I'm assuming that we have your email address somewhere in the organizing screen somewhere. So I'll send you that cash projection format.
Awesome.
Right after that. Cool.
All right. Well, you ladies have a beautiful rest of your day, and
y'all too.
Resilient.
All right. Well, thank you, and have a great rest of your week. Okay.
You too. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Okay. All right.
Okay.
Well, there you go.
Well, is the recording going to stop now? When does recording stop?
Was it recording?
Yeah.
Okay,
and then
good.
It'll be available.
Okay. Probably when we hang up, I would guess.
Right.
So.
All right. Well, super fun.
Yeah, that was fun. That was great. And I'm going to send Mimi that information. If I can't find her email address, I'll harass you about it.
Okay. Very cool.
Thanks. All right.
Bye.
Talk to you later. Bye-bye.
Yep.